This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.
And welcome back, everyone. It is one of the most important things you can do in your life to move your life forward. And especially if you've been involved in a car accident. She is somebody that helps people move their life forward with counseling, therapy, following a car accident. Side note here, many times, that therapy is included in your insurance, your car insurance, but most people aren't aware of that. So we've been making people aware of that. She works with people in New Jersey. By the way, what am I referring to here? It's the F word. I'm going to say it right here. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. In many ways, it moves your life forward. It doesn't mean we condone what somebody may have done. Somebody may have been the cause of a car accident. We don't condone, but to forgive moves your life forward. We're going to talk about that today with Miriam Rosario from Pressman and Associates. I got that right, don't I?
Yep, you got that right.
Beautiful. Welcome. How are you doing?
I'm doing good. It's great to be here.
Yeah, it's good to have you back here. And this is one of those things that, can change your life when it comes to a car accident. But I'm sure as a psychotherapist, part of that journey is forgiving. Not easy to do, right?
Not at all.
Why is it so important?
It's important to be able to forgive for your own personal growth, for your own healing in order to move forward.
What happens when you forgive? Car accident or not, what's going on? Like I would have to assume that we're holding on to something and we need to let it go when you don't forgive.
Right. And you don't forgive. And, keeping in mind that forgiveness is very difficult. And talking about it may seem like it isn't, but I think everybody probably would agree that having to forgive whatever the process is or whatever the situation is, it's difficult. So when we hold on to the anger and the grief and the disbelief, it just holds us down. It holds us back. It doesn't give us any kind of space to heal or to move forward.
Walk us through that process. I'm still trying to figure it out myself, by the way, not car related, but just life in general. We all got things, we all have things we need to forgive others for.
Yeah, well, if it's left unprocessed, the forgiveness leads to barriers. So that kind of stunts our emotional growth. So the process would be really to understand where you are with it, understand where the anger is, understand the process of when forgiving in a car accident, our life in that moment changes. So you're dealing with somebody who, because of an accident, has lost their ability to be independent, has lost their ability maybe to think clearly if there are any head injuries, and they've lost their ability to just kind of be free because they deal with pain every day, or they deal with loss every day of whatever that may have been. If it's independence, you no longer can do things by yourself, or you can't walk, or you have a permanent injury on your back and you have to be careful if you have little kids and you're young. It's the ability of having to think about, can I pick my child up or not? And if I pick my child up, is that going to put me in pain for the next few days? Is that going to limit my sleep because of the pain, because I can't get comfortable? So it's understanding all of those changes that have happened and knowing that, within our spirit, it's going to be important to be able to adjust and look past that eventually, because it's not something that happens overnight. So the first part of it would be to acknowledge that it's time to forgive. It's time to start the process of moving forward.
Is there a formula that you can follow? And again, every situation is different. A lot of emotions attached to that, but is there, something that we can follow to help us understand and then eventually, ultimately forgive?
Hmm. Well, the tools that can be helpful is if you are in therapy, or if not, then I would recommend, but I'm biased, I would recommend to be in therapy to
Everybody should
help.
be in therapy.
That's right.
It's the
To
truth.
help with the yes, yes, to help with the healing process. And it would be about sort of narrating what has happened. So explaining what has happened, talking about it, because in the process of talking about it, we move it from one side of our brain to the next so that we're able to then adjust to it, so that we're able to understand the emotion behind it. And once we understand the emotion behind it, then we can start working on healing it.
Hmm.
So it would be through going to therapy, having someone who can listen, who can ground you, who can be compassionate and understand, and to help give you tools to be present to the moment. It's also about journaling. We've talked about that in the past, but journaling also helps with forgiveness, and asking questions like, what would I say to the person I need to forgive? Or what do I need to hear in order to forgive myself?
So I want to use this as an example. I've mentioned my friend that had an accident. Now it's about 10-ish weeks since the accident, maybe a little bit more. And that was a teenager who rear-ended his vehicle. He, his wife, his son. Son is about 20 or so in the vehicle, and major challenges physically, and on and on. In the forgiveness of the person that hit him, and we're just using this as an example, hypothetically here, if you want. Should we
Mhm.
look at that person? Now, it was a teenager. We might assume maybe they were on their phone, maybe they were texting, new driver. Okay. If you were to look at that, would you use empathy in your understanding? All right, well, she was just started driving. She probably knew she shouldn't have been texting. Maybe it was an important text with her mom. Should be doing it, but maybe there was that floating out there. Um, you know, should we look at the other person, kind of walk in their shoes? Again, we don't condone what somebody may have done. It's not a free pass. Oh, you're on the phone. All right, great. You caused an accident. But should we look at it through their eyes to better understand, to help us forgive?
I think that that's important to do, because when you look at it through the other person's eyes of what they were doing, because he's the adult, right? And then the teenager is learning. And again, we're not condoning what they did. However, as the adult and being the bigger person on the other side, when you look at it through the teenager's eyes, it gives a human response. So it sort of normalizes it. And I
Hmm.
think that normalizing it helps with the process of healing it, and
Yeah.
sometimes that may mean to have a conversation with that person, or to write a letter about how you feel about it. Because regardless of how human the other person is, the accident still has changed his life.
Right. Right. And it's a great point you bring up. Um, you may not have conversations with somebody who's done something, caused a car accident, um, and they might not even care in the whole forgiveness process. They don't. I don't care if you forgive me or whatever in any situation. But I love what you said there about writing it down, where you could even write them a letter. In any reason to forgive somebody, you don't have to give it to them, but you wrote it.
Right.
So now you've purged it. Your feelings are right there. A lot of people rip it up or throw it in a fire and just let it
Yeah.
send it out to the universe as if it was sent, but it really wasn't. Um, I've heard that done, but it can be very impactful as well, right?
Right, because the point is for you to release it. And I love the word that you use, purged. It's important to purge it, to release it from your body, to let it go.
Yeah.
Because the forgiveness really is about your healing, not having the expectation that the other person wants it or needs it or even cares.
Yeah. Don't have expectations. I guess we should get that out of the way right now.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And
Yeah.
if it makes you feel better, you can always reach out and say, I just want you to know I forgive you, and just let it be. You might not get a reply. It doesn't matter. Uh, it's energetically you have released it. How about with the process of forgiveness? Any other things that we should be thinking of?
But the process of forgiveness,
Yeah.
that's a pretty big process.
What?
With
How about
forgiveness.
walk us through it? I'm still there's situations where need to forgive. Even in one situation, I'm very transparent. I'm probably about 75% in one major situation. Um,
Mhm.
that 25% there, it's been hanging in there for quite some time, and
Yes.
got to do work on it.
Yes. Well, I mean, when we're working on forgiveness and it's something that's really big, it's an experience that we've had that's really, really difficult to get through. There are different rituals that you can do, right? And we talked about writing, and you mentioned ripping it up or burning it. These are all rituals that you can do. Like there's some research that can be done also for the different types of spiritual rituals that can be done with forgiveness, right? The Tibetan monks have this ritual where they create this beautiful mandala, and it takes them a process of 5 days to work on this mandala. And what they do is they create an outline on a squared piece of cardboard. Um, I'm not really good with like measurements, but big enough to sit on the corners. And they create a blueprint, and then they just sit for hours with their mouth covered with organic sand, and they start tapping, and they create this really intricate mandala. So by day 5, you have this organic sand that's different colors, these beautiful, intricate images that are in there. And throughout the whole process, what they're doing as they're tapping the sand and creating this beautiful piece of artwork, it's also the healing. So they spend the entire time praying on whatever it is that they need to forgive. So
Wow.
by the end of it, and this is like incredible. What they do is they lift up the mandala, and they take it outside, and they just blow it away. And if there is a stream or water that's flowing, they pretty much blow it into that, because that's the healing process. It's the image of releasing it and letting it go.
That's beautiful. I mean, that's just what we're
It
talking
is.
about here, where, symbolically, and, I
Mhm.
believe very deeply in energy and how we all are, everything is energy. You are, even though you're not confronting the person, engaging with that person, you are energetically letting it go,
Right.
moving it. And you can't squash energy. You can only change its shape and form. So we change it from what's in the feelings that we have, the anguish, the anger, all those things that are floating in you, and now we've turned it into something else energetically,
Which transforms it.
which transforms it. Have you ever, while we're talking about that, have you ever heard of and I'm not going to be able to say this correctly, uh, Ho'oponopono? Something like that. It's a Hawaiian
Yes.
um, ritual. It's a mantra that you repeat, and it's their way of
Yep.
forgiveness. People swear by it too.
Yes. Yeah, the mantras, I love you, I'm sorry, please forgive me.
Pretty much, yeah. That's it.
Yep.
Yeah.
That is the mantra. And sometimes I incorporate that into the therapy when I'm working with patients. And some of the response is interesting because they'll say, "Oh, I can't tell myself that I love myself. I'm not there yet." So they'll start with, "I'm sorry," and then they'll eventually work on, "I love you. I'm sorry. Please forgive me," or they'll eventually include all of it. But it's an interesting process.
Isn't it? It's there's a
Yeah.
lot going on there. When you really, I hate to use the analogy, but it peel the layers back. When you start looking at what's going on with forgiveness, what it's doing for you, what symbolically is happening. There's a lot going on. That's why it's so hard, I guess. Um, what's your suggestion, Miriam, for somebody who is stuck in the forgiveness thing? Maybe they're at the point where they realize that, yeah, I got to forgive them, but they just aren't there yet. How can they, no pun intended, get on the road to forgiveness?
Well, for everybody, it's really on their own pace, right? So it's subjective. So it's giving them the time and the space to get there. So if that means continuing to talk about it, exploring it further, what is it that's keeping them stuck? And then exploring that. And what would it look like to be unstuck? And exploring that as well. Getting to the point where, they have processed it through talking about it or going through a different type of technique, hypnotically, to help them
Mm.
process through the trauma of it. Because when you are to the point where you're in a position where you're having a difficult time forgiving, that experience had to be traumatic.
Thank you for saying that because I completely forgot about it. But about 3 years ago, I did hypnotherapy for forgiveness, to forgive someone. Yeah. Um, and it's funny because it was just mentioned that this person does hypnotherapy for forgiveness. I just thought it was a specialty. Oh, they're a forgiveness
Uh-huh.
hypnotherapist. It turns out no, they just do general hypnotherapy, and forgiveness is one of those things. Side note: we were on a virtual call, and there was a tech issue, so it dumped out like about 10 minutes before the session should have ended. But I did get some benefits from it. I felt again in my 75% of forgiveness at this moment. I probably would have been
Mm,
at like 40%. Um, but 25% still hanging out there. How
mm.
about the things that we get from forgiving? Now, aside from feeling better, maybe some closure, there is a lot of other things scientifically proven that can improve your health, right? Can we talk about those?
Yeah, it can lower anxiety and depression. It can lower the symptoms of PTSD if, in my opinion, would be better to process through it so that we can eliminate that. And it can improve our health, and our overall satisfaction in the way that we live.
Hmm.
We would just feel lighter.
Yes, that's a great description. Yeah.
Hmm.
It's like you've lifted something off your shoulders, and you might not even know what it is.
Right.
You might just think, I just feel so heavy. That accident really, did a number on me, and I'm sure it did. Not minimizing anything, physically, mentally, spiritually, all
Hmm.
of that. But maybe you need to forgive. Maybe you've got stuff in you, you have some anger for somebody who did something, whether it was intentional or not,
Yeah.
whether they made a mistake or in the case, I said before, teenager might have been texting. Doesn't really matter. It just needs to be forgiven.
Right.
Yeah. How about any other thoughts about forgiveness we haven't hit upon?
I think that when it comes to forgiveness and we're thinking about the other person, it's important to think about that that person may not be capable of understanding what they did, and they may not be capable of having a conversation. And, in a case of a car accident, you might not ever even see that other person.
Right.
So it's really understanding that forgiveness has everything to do with your healing and you moving forward so that you don't get stuck and you're not bitter all the time.
You brought back a memory to a news story happened last year where a drunk driver took the life of a 5-year-old. And shortly thereafter, the mother, she was featured in the news story, and she actually said, "I forgive them." And
Mm,
I can't even get there. I just, what
mhm,
she may have been going through, but she said, "I forgive." And also, I'm grateful. There's another one in
mhm.
gratitude. I'm grateful that my son's organs will be donated to preserve life for others. And I guess, she released all of that in the very beginning as opposed to holding on to it.
Yeah,
Um, I don't know where somebody would find the courage to do that. I give her a lot of credit, but I'll bet you it was very impactful heading it off at the pass, so to speak, in terms of her healing from something so tragic like that, right?
right.
Mm.
And when somebody like that is able to do that, a lot of healing happens for her and for everyone involved.
Yeah. Yeah. And you know what? If I heard about that accident, I'd be angry. I
Yeah,
don't even know the kid. It's not even in my state, whatever it might be. I would be angry, but knowing that she forgave softens me up to the situation. Again, horrible. The person needs to, pay the penalty, whatever that may be. Um, but it kind of clears the air in a way, where it's like, what's it going to do to be angry for the rest of your life? It's going
right.
to take away from you. And I guess in a car accident, enough has been taken away potentially from somebody. Miriam, how do we connect with you? I know that you work with people in New Jersey. Again, want to state it because it was a mind blow for me that therapeutic services following a car accident are covered by your car insurance. They don't really tell you that often. How do we find you?
Well, you can call the number 856-548-9557, or you can go to www.pippna.com.
And don't hate me for this, but I always say PIP stands for.
Personal injury protection.
Gotcha. Thank you so much for today. Great topic. And it serves everyone, car accidents or not. We need to forgive. Easy? No, but we need to do it.
Not at all.
Appreciate it. Have a good weekend. We'll talk soon, okay?
Do the same. All right.
This is the Global Podcast Network, where executives and professionals connect, share, and inspire. Stay tuned for the conversations that drive success.